There is a version of wellness culture that still believes the body is a machine to conquer. And some common things are push harder, optimize faster, hack deeper, fix it now. And honestly, that energy is exhausting because underneath so much modern health culture, there's this quiet panic. It's a fear that slowing down enough to feel ourselves is somehow bad. Welcome to Incandescent Voltage, Luminous Being. My name is Tiffany, and I am a functional medicine board certified health coach, and I have been since 2017. Everything shared here in this channel is intended for educational and reflective purposes only, and this is not medical advice. So I encourage you to remember you are the keeper of your own current, and please seek medical advice or mental health help whenever needed. Let's begin. We are living in an era obsessed with acceleration, faster weight loss, faster metabolism, faster healing, faster anti-aging, faster productivity, faster transformation. And we see this all over in social media and mainstream advertising and marketing. Even rest gets turned into performance. And in the middle of all of this, more and more people are talking about GLP-1 medications, hormone replacement therapy, metabolic dysfunction, cravings, cortisol, nervous system regulation. But I think there is a deeper conversation happening beneath all of it. And it's not about how do we force the body into submission, but rather what happens when the body has been screaming safety for decades? Because some people are trying to outrun the body, and others are finally learning how to listen to it. And strangely enough, I think the old fable of the tortoise and the hare explains this better than most modern wellness conversations do. Because the hare represents our urgency culture, the constant pressure to override our biology, the obsession with immediate outcomes, the belief that faster automatically means better. The tortoise represents regulation, pacing, consistency, sustainable meaning. The wisdom of moving at the speed the nervous system can actually tolerate. The modern hare says, I need results now. But the modern tortoise is asking, how do I support my body so it stops screaming? And I think that kind of changes the whole narrative. The hare isn't evil. The hare is simply dysregulated. And that's an important distinction because many people living inside urgency culture, they're not shallow, lazy, or vain. They're simply exhausted. They're scared. They're trying to survive in a culture that it really does reward nervous system overdrive. The hare is excess yang energy. It's too much force, too much urgency, too much stimulation, and way too much doing. This is the energy of aggressive restriction, punishing workouts, constant optimization, panic around aging, panic around body image, panic around productivity, panic around weight gain, and panic around just slowing down. That's actually a real thing. And modern wellness culture often disguises this panic as empowerment. Crazy, I know. But forcing the body harder is not always empowerment. Sometimes it's fear wearing a wellness costume. The hare energy says if I can just control myself enough, maybe I'll finally feel safe. But the nervous system doesn't interpret punishment as safety, it's interpreting punishment as threat. And this is why so many people feel trapped in cycles of restriction and binging and motivation and collapse and discipline and rebellion and control and chaos, the body eventually pushes back. Not because it's broken, but because biology was never designed to sustain warfare against itself. The body keeps asking, can we slow down enough to be heard? And urgency keeps replying with, no, faster. The tortoise is not passive. The tortoise is regulated, and that's very different. The tortoise understands rhythm, not punishment or extremes or that all or nothing behavior and thinking, but rhythm and balance. The tortoise honors consistent nourishment and sleep, restoration, gentle structure, body trust, steady pacing, supportive routines, listening instead of forcing. This is balanced yin and yang energies. Yang still exists. There's movement, action, structure, and momentum. But yin energy is finally present enough to hold it. There's softness, recovery, containment, receptivity, breath. The tortoise understands something that modern culture has forgotten: sustainability in a nervous system experience, not just a strategy. Because people do not usually sabotage what genuinely feels safe to maintain. And I think this is where the conversation around GLP-1 medications and hormone replacement therapy becomes incredibly nuanced. Support isn't failure, and we need more mature conversations around that. I don't believe GLP-1 medications are the villain, but I also don't believe they're magic, simply tools. And tools reveal the nervous system that's holding them. For some people, GLP-1 medications reduce enough internal noise for the body to finally experience less chaos around food. And that matters. Reduced food noise can feel life-changing for someone who spent years trapped in compulsive eating patterns, constant cravings, metabolic dysregulation, insulin resistance, shame, and internal warfare. Improved satiety signaling matters, and metabolic support matters, and insulin regulation matters. And I think it's incredibly important that we stop treating people as morally superior or inferior based on whether or not they're using support, because support isn't weakness. Support isn't failure. Support works best when it's paired with self-trust instead of self-rejection. Let me repeat that. Support works best when it is paired with self-trust instead of self-regulation and self-rejection. No medication can create inner safety on its own. And the part of the conversation that I think a lot of people are missing is what happens when the body becomes quieter. But not just the body becoming quieter, understanding, is the nervous system still expecting chaos? Because sometimes the compulsions shift. The food noise quiets, but perfectionism remains. The weight changes, but self-rejection is still there. The appetite decreases, but nervous system hypervigilance hasn't changed a bit. The body changes, but identity panic can emerge. And this is why some people discover that even after changing physically, emotionally, they're still feeling unsafe. The nervous system has been conditioned around urgency for years and sometimes decades. Urgency is the only thing that ever created movement. Stillness can initially feel terrifying. And that is very profound nervous system work, not just metabolism. because the body is not only biochemical, it is emotional, electrical, relational, somatic. The body remembers the pace it survived in. And many people have survived in panic for so long that peace feels unfamiliar. And this is where I think the conversation is so important, because food is not always just food. Sometimes cravings are chemistry, sometimes they're blood sugar instability, and sometimes they're hormonal fluctuations. Cravings can be dopamine seeking or nervous system regulation attempts, but sometimes they're grief or exhaustion, and maybe even the body begging for grounding. The nervous system is always trying to move toward regulation using tools it currently has available, even if those are compulsive tools. This doesn't mean we abandon biology, and it doesn't mean we abandon emotional healing. It means we stop pretending human beings can be separated in isolated categories. The body is not just hormones or just psychology or just metabolism. Everything is connected. You are an entire ecosystem. And this is why I believe the future of wellness has become more compassionate, more integrated, less shame, less extremism, less ideological warfare, more listening and more nuance, more understanding and empathy, that different bodies need different forms of support at different seasons of life. Sometimes support allows the nervous system enough breathing room to finally begin healing. That matters. And I think this becomes especially important when we begin talking about women in perimenopause and menopause, because many women, they're not failing in midlife. Their biology is changing faster than their nervous system understands. That can feel terrifying, especially in a culture that worships youth and productivity and thinness and endless output. Perimenopause and menopause can feel like a complete internal reorganization. And the reality for many women involves sleep disruption, anxiety, increased cravings, irritability, overeating, restlessness, brain fog, exhaustion. From a yin yang perspective, this can be understood beautifully as yin energy depletion. The system loses some of its internal cooling, grounding, and restorative capacity. And when yin energy becomes depleted, yang energy begins to flare. And this looks and feels like increased urgency. Our heat can increase, overstimulation can increase, irritability can increase, and the nervous system struggles to settle. And I think many women silently internalize this as personal failure. But what if it's not failure? What if it's the body asking for a different rhythm? What if it's the body saying, I can't sustain this old pace anymore? And honestly, I think that's wisdom, body wisdom, not weakness. Many women have spent decades surviving through overfunctioning, overgiving, overperforming, over caretaking, overriding everything. And eventually the body says, no more, not as punishment, but as communication. And this is where hormone replacement therapy conversations can become so emotionally charged. Because for some women, hormone support can create profound relief, better sleep, reduced anxiety, improved stability, reduced suffering. And I think women deserve nuanced conversations instead of fear based polarization, because support is not moral failure. Support's not failure. Let that sink in. Absolutely not failure. But even with support, the nervous system may still need to learn how to live differently. because many women do not only need hormonal support, they need permission to stop living like hunted animals. And this is where cravings can become fascinating because sometimes cravings are not about a lack of discipline. They're the body searching for grounding in a system that no longer feels internally anchored. Sometimes the body is looking for warmth or comfort, stability, energy, containment, soothing. Sometimes the nervous system is trying to regulate itself through food because the environment feels overwhelming. And when we frame cravings only through shame, we can miss the wisdom that is underneath them. That doesn't mean every craving should automatically be followed, but it also does not mean cravings should be automatically feared. Sometimes cravings are information. The body asking, what do I actually need right now? Maybe rest, protein, safety, warmth, minerals, connection, stillness, predictability. The tortoise learns how to pause long enough to ask, but the hare keeps sprinting. And I think the future belongs to the tortoise, not because slow is so superior, but because sustainable pacing creates coherence. The evolved tortoise understands gentle metabolic support, appropriate hormone support, nervous system regulation, consistent nourishment, body trust, sustainable routines, reduced internal warfare. And this is not about abandoning science, and it's not about abandoning intuition. It's about integration. Ancient wisdom meeting modern science, not fighting each other, but collaborating. The body does not need another war. Most people have already lived through enough of those internally. Your body needs rhythm. Your body needs safety. Your body needs enough steadiness to finally stop bracing against itself. And I think many people are discovering that true healing is less glamorous than wellness culture promised. It's not usually a dramatic overnight transformation. It's often going to be looking like sleeping more consistently, eating enough protein, walking regularly, learning emotional regulation, allowing for rest, setting boundaries, reducing overstimulation, creating supportive structure, softening shame, and building trust with the body again. Very tortoise energy, but very unsexy by internet standards. And yet, this is often where the real healing begins. The hare spends life trying to outrun discomfort, and the tortoise learns how to stay present long enough to understand it. And I think many people are exhausted from being taught to treat their bodies like enemies, especially women and all people living with chronic stress, as well as people whose nervous systems learned survival before they ever learned safety. But your body is not failing because it needs support. Your body is not weak because it needs rest. Your body is not broken because it can no longer tolerate the pace that it once, worked to keep you functioning. Sometimes the wisest thing that the body can do is refuse to continue the race. And maybe healing is not about becoming smaller or younger or more optimized, but maybe healing is finally becoming safe enough to live inside yourself. The tortoise understands this, not because it's moving backward, but because it finally realizes that sustainable healing was never meant to feel like panic. Only the hare believes that exhaustion is proof of worthiness. The tortoise knows something deeper. The body heals more beautifully in safety than it ever will in fear. And maybe the real victory was never crossing the finish line first. Maybe the real victory was finally learning how to stop running from yourself. Before we close, I will be putting some reflective questions in the community tab tomorrow, and you can use them for journaling or contemplation or a deeper conversation with a trusted counselor or therapist if that feels supportive for you. There's no pressure to have immediate answers. Just keep in mind, sometimes that self awareness begins simply by creating the space for the questions themselves. I want to thank you for spending this time with me today, Luminous Being. If something in this conversation resonated with you, I would love to hear your reflections in the comments below. How did this information shift your view of yourself, your body, or the season that you're currently in? And what expanded your self-awareness as you listened? These conversations are not about perfection. They're about learning how to listen more honestly to ourselves with curiosity, compassion, and clarity. And if this episode supported you in some way, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone else that you think may benefit from these words. And if you'd like to go deeper, I invite you to explore my free 5-day email course. It's linked in the description. And this is where ancient wisdom meets modern science to support you on your own wellness journey. And until next time, may you continue healing at the speed of safety.